And yeah, like while we were like in the middle of the Navajo Nation with no cell phone connectivity or anything, we stopped at a Burger King that is like right in the middle. They had like the TV on in there. We connected to our, to the Wi-Fi, and it looked like the world was ending. My friend, like his flight back to Europe was canceled, and I had a lot of messages like from family members and from my partner telling me like we have to, close the school and like move all the classes online. So I spent like the rest of my vacation in the hotel, like working on this.
Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. This is Darren Pulsford, Chief Solution Architect, author, and most importantly, your host. On today's episode, Surviving Black Swan Events Through Digital Transformation with founder and managing director of Berges Institute, Dan Berges. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Dan, before we get kicked off into digital transformation and the forcing factors around digital transformation for you and your school, let's hear your backstory. People really love to hear where you came from, how you got to where you're at today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am the managing director and one of the founders of Berges Institute, which is a Spanish language school for adults headquartered in the US in New York City. I've been running it for 10 years. And I mean, my background is in education, but I do kind of have an interesting background and I do a lot of things in the company. So I have an undergrad degree in music performance.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You hit a hot spot for me. I love music. So what music performance, what singing, cello,
guitar,
violin?
and anything with the strings that is tuned in fourths, I can manage to play it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So classical guitar primarily?
Electric guitar mostly, although I'm a big flamenco aficionado. I don't play flamenco at a professional level. I can play other stuff at a professional level. But these days I spend my time like playing a lot of flamenco.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love music. All my kids play instruments of one way or another, or sing or whatever. So I think it's wonderful. So, all right, how does a musician end up teaching and now starting a school?
Yeah. So, well, after my undergrad, I did a master's degree in education, and that is when I did the switch. I already had experience teaching music. I've basically taught music, Spanish, and also like different like coding or programming stuff. Those are the three things I'm like most comfortable with. So yeah, I do have like a background in arts and music in particular, and then I have a master's degree in teaching. My main background is in education. And then I do have like some like technical computer skills. Like I learned to code back in high school, and it is something that I've always really liked. So these days I spend most of my time writing code for the school. That is like the main thing that I do.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So yeah, that is basically like where we are at right now. So I've been running Berges Institute for 10 years, as I said. We were an in-person school until 2020 mostly. We already had online classes in 2019, and then during COVID we did like a complete transformation and went 100% online.
Okay, so your in-person school, is that in New York City and in other places throughout the United States?
So
before
we were
COVID hit
in New York City and Chicago, in downtown Chicago.
Okay, so New York and downtown Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
March 13th, 2020. I know the day because it was a Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Everything shut down.
Yeah.
And it was not just in the US, it was worldwide. Everything shut down.
Yeah.
What happened to you guys when that happened?
Yeah. So I was on vacation actually during those days. I was in Las Vegas and driving around the Navajo Nation in those days with a friend. We almost canceled the trip. We decided not to cancel it. So this was like a few days before that, maybe like around the 7th or the 8th of March. And yeah, like while we were like in the middle of the Navajo Nation with no cell phone connectivity or anything, we stopped at a Burger King that is like right in the middle. They had like the TV on in there. We connected to our, to the Wi-Fi, and it looked like the world was ending. My friend, like his flight back to Europe was canceled, and I had a lot of messages like from family members and from my partner telling me like we have to, close the school and like move all the classes online. So I spent like the rest of my vacation in the hotel, like working on this. Like thankfully we already had online classes and we had like all the infrastructure for like having online classes, so it was like very painless, like the technical aspect of moving all the classes online. So in 2 days we had pretty much like moved everything online. We were very fast. We did it like before like the actual lockdown, like was enforced, like a few days before. And yeah, it was like very painless in a way.
So a big question then, you'd already started moving to online. How
Hmm.
long did that take to do to move from in person to online? What was that like? Or did you already have that kind of in your mind that you wanted to move in that direction from the beginning?
Uh-huh. Well, no, still, we believe then that there was more value on in-person classes, and that is something that I no longer believe. Um,
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, it is different. Like there are pros and cons. The thing was that before COVID, um, people were not that used to online classes. Like maybe, I mean, a lot of colleges had online programs and stuff, but in our case, where most of our students are like professionals in like different settings, like our students were not that used to online classes, so it was even like difficult like explaining to them like how to log into the platform and stuff like that, which is something that now it's like ubiquitous and everybody like, yeah, it's,
Everyone knows how to do
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like there were like two challenges. Like one of them is technical, and one of them is like the educational aspect. Like the educational aspect, like it is absolutely different. Like being in person or being online, there are pros and cons.
Let's talk before you jump into. Let's talk about the technical thing first, and then
Hmm.
we'll talk about the cultural shift with your
Okay.
students and also the business. So, on
Uh-huh.
the technical side, did you guys build your own platform, or did you leverage something that already existed?
Uh-huh.
Are you in the cloud, or how did you make those decisions?
Hmm. Yeah. So for the actual classes, right now we use Zoom. Back then we used Blue Jeans, which was bought by Verizon during the pandemic, and it shut down. In the middle, we tried to deploy our own big blue button server. This was just a few months ago, but that is like only the actual infrastructure for the actual classes. So at the end, we've moved to Zoom, and it's great. But there's like a lot of other infrastructure that is related to that, which was the big challenge. The whole scheduling thing. While like if you are having like as asynchronous like pre-recorded classes and you are selling them on any platform for that, it is very straightforward. Like the object that you are selling is a pre-recorded class, and you just have a
Right.
paywall for people to access it. When it's synchronous, it gets pretty complicated because you have like people's schedules. You have, at the time we had like physical rooms and virtual rooms. You have students who have like a package or a subscription to be able to access X amount of classes. So it gets pretty complicated. So we have been working already for years in our own platform, which like we developed ourselves. It's written on PHP, on object-oriented modern PHP, not
Uh-huh.
like the spaghetti PHP from like 15 years ago. We use Laravel as the framework, and it is actually pretty nice. We built it back then when we had both online and in-person classes. So the abstractions like are very nice. We spend a lot of time thinking about them, and they kind of map like what we have, which is like students, teachers, rooms, courses that have classes. Classes have a time and a duration, etc. So we already had that infrastructure in place that we had been working on for a while.
So you leverage Zoom, and then you
Hmm.
built your own scheduling software and
Hmm.
tracking software. Is that hosted in the cloud? Is that in your own
Hmm.
data center?
So
So you
it's
don't
in the
have
cloud. Yeah.
it's in the cloud. So you don't have any capex costs per se. That's a
Yeah.
major shift from what you had
That is a
before.
major shift. Yeah, 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 absolutely. So yeah, it is. it is still complex. Like I talk about that a lot. Like there was the technical aspect, the educational aspect, and there was also a marketing aspect, right? And with this marketing aspect, it is one thing, when you are in person and you have like two big schools in downtown New York City and Chicago, people know automatically you're a big serious school. When you're just on the internet and you have like some infrastructure on AWS,
they don't know.
Exactly. Like it is a challenge to like convince people that you are a big serious school with a big history and that you are not like, some
it's
random
just
guy
Dan
with a
running
website.
it out of his basement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is way cheaper, of course, than like having, 3,000 square feet in Midtown Manhattan. It is very complex though. In some way, like there was some complexity in managing like, the in-person schools. You have like leases, insurance, you have like water leaks and systems to prevent water leaks, etc. There's a lot of complexity in a similar way, like in being in the cloud, but it's kind of amazing these days how like small companies like us can have this infrastructure that like back then only like big companies could have, like we have like several servers that are stateless behind a load balancer. It's kind of amazing.
So that's an interesting question. If COVID didn't happen, would you guys still be an online? Would you be an in-person school with some online? Did COVID force you to really look at your business model completely differently?
Yes and no. I think it just accelerated it. We were already, like it was going to happen eventually. It just like made it happen faster, and thankfully we had all the infrastructure in place.
All right, cool. All right, so technically you guys are already down this route, but it included a lot of custom work that you had to do. What about for your students that you already had and the cultural change, both for your students and also for you and your business partners?
Yeah. So I mean, at the beginning, it was kind of like something that everybody had to go along with. So in a way, like the whole thing, like made our students like get used to it. So it was supposed to be temporary at the beginning, but then we didn't reopen in person until September 2021. So it was like more than a year and a half later. So by then, our students were like really used to the new model. Our teachers were used to it. We like the two business partners were used to it. We reopened in person, and only some people came back. Like most people stayed online. Like it has, the pros outweighed the cons. Like there's pros and cons, but the pros.
So have you gone completely online? No more in person?
Yeah. So we had in-person classes in New York City. We never reopened in Chicago, but in New York City we had throughout 2022. And in December 2022, we closed down our last classroom space in Manhattan and went 100% online. But even by then, like maybe 70% of our students were taking only online classes. Even
so
like
was it complicated to run both in person and online? I mean, that increased your cost. And administrative overhead, right?
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, we had less space by then. And it was like the same thing that we were doing before the pandemic, just with different percentages. So the administration wasn't like particularly more difficult or anything. It was just that the attendance wasn't there.
Well, did you and your partners have any hesitation going fully online? What was the hesitation?
Yes. I mean, the thing was like, will we lose the students that after like, a year and a half, like wanted to go back online? And I mean, we didn't. We lost a few people, but most people stayed with us online because they like our program better. So I mean, at the end, like the metrics were clear, and it was a good decision in hindsight.
All right, now what about your professors? What about your teachers? Right?
Yeah, I think they enjoyed working from home, like from the beginning. Like we got feedback about it. Like a lot of them who were in New York, they had no problem like going back to in person when we reopened. Uh, like there was like some administrative overhead in that, in that they were teaching both online and in person. So we had to work a little bit, on the scheduling for that, but it was fine. And I mean, at the end, like they've got used to it, and I'm pretty sure most of them like prefer to teach online. It's just more convenient.
Yeah, they can be at home in their pajamas.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or anywhere in the world. That's another interesting thing.
Yeah.
Have you expanded the number of students that you have because you can go into more markets?
Yeah. We have. We are marketing ourselves in other English-speaking countries, and we already have like several students in Europe. We have a couple in Australia. We have like in Canada. We have a lot more, and we even have like one or two in India and someone in the Emirates. So yeah, like we've been able to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, and then your
So
teachers as well can now be spread out anywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in fact, you yourself, you're not living in the U.S. anymore.
No.
You're in Spain.
Yeah, I'm in Madrid right now. My partner is in Los Angeles right now. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so, are you originally from? You're originally from Madrid area, or?
Yeah, I'm originally from Madrid. I spent the past 15 years in the U.S. and I just came back a few months ago.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can you give us a sense of any lessons learned? If I'm starting a company and I'm doing it, you have the benefit of doing it brick and mortar first, and then moving to online. If you were to start a business today fully online, and you don't have to go through digital transformation, and you're just doing digital, what advice would you give to people, listeners out there?
Yeah. So my main advice would be just like learn about not necessarily to code, but how coding and programming works. Just because it is something that you're gonna have to work with, and the main thing that happens in my experience to small companies is that they start hiring freelancers for their infrastructure. And if your business logic is slightly complex, which is the case for a lot of companies, you will end up with an unmaintainable, unsustainable code base that is a nightmare for everybody. So it's fine. You don't have to learn to code and code it yourself, but work with people, even if it's freelancers, that can get involved, can understand the business logic, and can have creative leverage to design along with you. It is very.
So are you saying adapt your business workflows as well? Instead of just coding to business workflows, maybe adapt them to be easier to work with. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and just make sure that the code base is maintainable, and that is like something that is very difficult to accomplish. And for that, you kind of need like the developers, whoever they are, to be like fairly involved and understand your business really well and have a lot of creative leverage. In a way, you cannot, if your business logic is slightly complex, you cannot work like project like you would do in brick and mortar with like, I don't know, fixing a roof. It doesn't work like that. You really need to develop a relationship with your developers, and over time, spend more hours thinking about the abstractions than actually coding.
I like that. Spend more time on the design and the analysis up front. I've run into that problem myself, right? I'm a software engineer as well, Dan. So I love doing it, even though that's not what I do every day. Well, I do it every day for myself because I enjoy it. But I have found if I just start coding without understanding the abstractions, I code myself into a circle. As you probably know, since you started coding yourself.
Yeah.
All right, great. If people want to find out more about your institute, if they want to learn about Spanish, if they want to, where do they find out more information?
Yeah, so they can just Google Berges Institute or visit us at bergesinstitutespanish.com. We offer a 15-day free trial, so anyone can go there and take a couple classes during that free trial. Our method is highly deductive as opposed to like inductive methods of learning. So we explain the grammar rules first and then we practice them. So it is a method that works really well for people that like logical learning, like very logical programs.
Okay. Very good. Okay, here's the next big question. Castilian or Hispanic Spanish?
Yeah. So, I mean, we try to keep it very international somehow. In general, sometimes we have to make decisions, with like certain words, like which word to put it. A lot of times we try to put them in context. I mean, in general, we don't tend to pronounce the Castilian th, the fricative, with beginners. Pronouncing it as an S is easier for everybody. Beginners in general shouldn't worry that much about the accent. You kind of really have to be at an advanced level to worry about that. And other than that, we have the vosotros conjugation, the second person plural that is only used in Spain. In the textbooks, we don't have them in our exams. That is kind of our compromise.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because when I learned Portuguese, I learned Brazilian Portuguese, which is very similar to South American or Central American Spanish. And I actually taught Portuguese, but I had to teach Portuguese, more formal, and the accent was completely different. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I think my audience has learned a lot from your transformation, and thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Thank you for having me. It's been great being in the podcast.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and embrace the digital revolution.